Hello there. Good evening. Tonight I wanted to talk about a video I watched. I thought most of it was well done, and it was an interesting look at things. It's not the first type of this video that I've ever seen. I've seen many actually. However, I thought this one was thorough and in depth. The video is called WW2 German Helmet Restoration, Rare and Special M42 Stahlhelm with Disturbing History. Um, this guy, History Secrets is his YouTube channel. Uh, Somewhat notable, 163,000 subscribers, so he's not doing too bad. Uh, well, what I wanted to say is most of the time I'm against helmet restoration because I think things should be left as they are, and then if they were neglected in the past, then taken care of in the future so that things don't get worse. In light of that, there are many reasons why something can deteriorate. Rust is the most notable reason. However, there are other things too that can, uh, you know, cause the particular item to deteriorate. Uh, yes, you have to step up and take action when you see that, or that piece of history is lost forever. Um, this guy had quite a few interesting points that he made. However, whether he knew it or not all his information was, in my opinion, accurate. Uh, he knew everything about deconstructing a helmet, uh, making it look brand new, and he illustrates that every single little point about how to take apart a helmet, put it together, what you should be looking for uh, with a helmet, and certain things to think about. He was very good at that. However, he made reference to a book that discusses uh, helmet lot numbers with makers, and it explaining how what kind of helmet it was, varying points, when it was made, whether it had decals or not. And those books are, except for the more common helmets, very inaccurate at best. I mean, they tried, but the fact is they're very inaccurate. And his helmet that he was working on was some rare variant where a botched lot number and um, size stamp on it was inaccurate. I'm not saying that didn't happen. However, he's adding providence to something that may not be true, and in all likelihood is not true. There are ways you can sort of fudge the lines onto whether these components are accurate or not, according to a book that caters to what you want to hear. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying I'm being skeptical. Anyway, he did a whole bunch of cleaning, gave it a new coat of paint. He had a liner that would fit, but he wanted to use the old metal band that holds the liner. He gave a history of the liner band, saying that it was made in a Polish ghetto and that it had history because of the markings on it. And, I thought that was an interesting part of the video that he was talking about, that he, references. And it's one thing to talk about it, but to have visuals as well is, it adds more to the story, really. However, as I said, I don't actually particularly like it when people monkey around with helmets. I have an M42 that was monkeyed around with, and it was worth the price I paid for it, but I'd prefer it wasn't monkeyed around with. I especially dislike it when decals are put on helmets when they never belong there in the first place. And in this particular example, even in his reference book, the helmet is described as being an ND, no decal. However, he insisted on putting on a Heer Wehrmacht Army decal on the side. So it is not tremendously difficult to put decals on and artificially age them, along with other things as well, because this original helmet didn't have a chin strap, and there was after he'd finished, the helmet looked brand new, like fresh off the assembly line, and he used it for reenacting purposes. That's what he uses his helmets for, and I'm not into reenacting. Sure, I suppose that would be a lot of fun, but it's not my cup of tea. I could see his reasoning for wanting to turn what, was a lower grade, potentially falling apart helmet into something more. I think offhand, though, it's mutilating the helmet. That's my opinion. And yeah, take it or leave it. I think the only time when people should intervene is when nature is taking the helmet back. There are plenty of examples where nature has done that with military equipment throughout wars of old. Yeah, like, the thing is, for a beginner collector, there are a lot of giveaways that helmet had been tampered with. And I'd like to say most people were as honest as him as far as, the dealing of German military, specifically helmets, but the truth is they're not. Especially the ones at the swap meets, because you never see them again afterwards, so it doesn't matter. If you're dumb enough to buy a phony thing, then, I guess you get what you deserve. I mean, everyone gets burned once in a while. I've been burned a couple of times, but nothing drastic. And I learned a lot from my mistakes. Like that chin strap that he had put in, he special ordered it along with the decal. That would never have fooled me. He said he had some ink or paint or something like that would age it, and even that is still not going to be enough. Like, I would still be able to see right through that thing. I give this guy credit. It is a pain in the ass to deconstruct and repair a helmet. Wouldn't surprise me if an amateur tried doing it. It takes them years to do it. And, most people learn by trying something, failing, and then trying it again and being more successful. That's just the truth. That's human nature. Most people can't read something complicated in a book or even see a video of it and then in practice go to do that specific task and do it 100% correctly, especially if it's very meticulous and very, specific as to what it is. And he gives a very detailed explanation as to what everything you need to do, what cleaning supplies, chemicals you need, and when you should be doing certain things to a particular helmet. And then he went off track because it takes a few weeks for these particular things that he needed to arrive through the mail, And he talked about how his snake bit him. I'm like, it's your video, you do what you want, but that you should have made a different video on that. Me, myself, I do not like snakes. I despise them. They're one of the creatures on this planet that if they went extinct, it wouldn't bother me. I do not like them. Yeah, that being said, only the rattlesnake has any respect in my book because it flat out tells you to piss off, and although they can be aggressive, usually it wants you to piss off. That's usually what a rattlesnake wants, so it warns you to piss off. I suppose being bitten one would change my philosophy on it, but I don't know. I've never run into one. It's too cold where I live. So yeah, I dislike snakes. So immediately as soon as someone says that they have a snake or they like snakes, they go down a few notches in the popularity level from my point of view. At least a few notches. Anyway, all that aside, because that has nothing to do with the video, I'll admit it. For a reenacting helmet that he created, it looked very, very nice. And if you have the time to spend and you're an enthusiast, 48 minutes to watch a video talking about the ins and outs of a helmet, very useful information. Like I said, it's not the first one I've watched, but, I figured I'd remark upon this one because it's relatively new. He put it up in April, mid-April he put it up. Yeah, and, getting back to the honesty part of the helmet being put back together. He did use original parts. He used original rivets and other pieces of metal pertaining to the helmet, and he tried his best to make it as original as possible, with the exception of adding a decal that didn't belong there. With that being said, most people who fix helmets don't do that. In fact, they do as little work as possible so that it's more worth their time to swindle somebody with. Because usually people get got when they don't know anything about this sort of stuff. And they think, oh, well, it looks cool, and maybe they're the first time buying or whatever, and then they get fooled. I'll give this guy credit. He put a lot of work into it. So that in itself is worth something as well. But, specifically Russians are notoriously bad for collecting any helmet and slapping a decal on it. Don't ever deal with Russians when it comes to German military. Don't ever deal with them. They always run off with the money and you never see them again. That's how it works, so don't deal with them. I'm sorry if that sounds discriminatory, but, well, that would be quite hypocritical for a Russian to say that about anyone, but, those are the facts. Anyway, thought it was a good video. I don't agree with all his practices, but that doesn't mean that I can't enjoy his description on how to take apart and put together a German helmet, and go through all the process with meticulous detail and not feel as though that I've walked away and I've learned something from it. So anyway, I would recommend checking out this video if you're interested in German military, specifically helmets. I haven't watched any of his other videos. I'm sure he's got other ones. And, I guess I'll talk to you people later. Have a good one.